Hello lovelies, my name's Feta and welcome to Fable Academy, where adventurers old and new learn from the best, but usually the worst. You know, it's been a while since I started trawling through the quagmires of RPG-related subreddits for stories to read and learn from, and in that time I've noticed a few consistent facts. 1. Edgy backstories continue to remain supreme, and none of them are truly original. 2. Anyone playing a Tabaxi character should and will be judged. And 3. Everybody hates the deck of many things. Sure, it's one of the most famous plot devices in all of RPG history. Yeah, it theoretically adds some zeal and surprise to a game that even the GM can't predict. But to this day, I have yet to find a single person willing to go on the record as saying, oh, that game really sucked until the DM whipped out the deck of many things. That really just turned it all around for me. But I have been looking for a positive experience regarding the DOMT, as it were. But in my research, I have come across this relatively recent and maybe even ongoing story. Let's draw a card and see just how screwed we are. Today's story is from Commissar AJ. Horror story, or am I just too salty? So the following just occurred in my D&D session just last night, and I'm still trying to process things. In particular, my feelings towards what happened at the end of it and the new situation I and the party now find ourselves in. I'm hoping for some impartial advice about whether my sentiments seem justified or if I'm just being overly salty because bad things happen to my character. Is this a horror story in the making, or am I just overly sensitive? To keep things concise, our party needs to cross a massive chasm to reach our next objective. The crossing is controlled or guarded by a sphinx. The toll for crossing was basically offered to us as taking any one of the following per person, which included some NPCs in our care, amounting to a needed 8 tolls worth. 1. Share useful knowledge with the Sphinx that it does not know. Not a viable option since our party really hasn't been privy to any esoteric useful secrets in the course of our adventures, especially to a creature that demonstrated to be both ancient and transdimensional. We pondered for a bit, tried a few things, but ultimately nothing we knew was useful. Even the most curious of things were trivial knowledge to it. 2. A permanent -1 debuff to your intelligence as the Sphinx consumes your thoughts and memories. Or 3. A draw, 1 draw per toll, from a deck of many things. From the nature of this subreddit, you can probably guess which option we ultimately had to go with, especially since the other two weren't exactly viable and we definitely weren't in any condition to start a fight. Plus, we kind of need the Sphinx alive to activate the crossing. Now, there was an NPC who offered to do a few draws for us, but they were in a cage, and we had been given more than a few warnings to never let them out under any circumstances. So ultimately, that left us having to do a bunch of draws from the deck of many things. By the end, 2 characters are now MIA, mine has been intellectually castrated. Yay, a permanent 1d4 plus 1 decrease to intelligence, and the 4th had all their magic items turned to dust. Only 1 player made it out unscathed. Now, am I wrong in thinking that this all felt kinda bad? Like, it wasn't railroading in the technical sense, but I felt like being heavily corralled towards drawing from the DOMT, as being really the only option we had to proceed forward with the quest. Every other option felt either worse or non-viable, and basically left the deck of many things as the only chance of something not terrible happening. And while I know the deck has many worse things inside, it still feels, I guess unfair is the word I want to use. Like, I felt I had no other options, and now I've been permanently debuffed. I don't mind suffering consequences when I make a bad call or the dice rolls against us during a fight, because at least in those situations I felt like I had more agency in determining my fate. But here, it's just RNG decides whether I get screwed or not. Also, not the first time this campaign has left me feeling like this. The whole thing started with a DC 15 perception check or you lose all your starting gear, which was kinda painful for a level 1 party. So, am I just being overly sensitive here or what? Like I said, I've been mulling over this for the past several hours at this point. Phew. There's a lot going on this time. In my experience, if you have to ask whether you're being too sensitive or not, then you're either not being too sensitive because you're sensitive enough to ask, or you're trying to cover yourself because there's something about the situation you're not saying. In this case, I don't think you're being too sensitive, OP. It sounds like this campaign has been going on for quite a while now, but I honestly can't tell where your DM's head is at. There's a joke that goes around wherever I see the deck of many things even mentioned, which says that a DM will only whip it out when they want to make the party suffer. It's a very wild and disruptive plot device that shakes things up, and usually not in a good way. To use it as a toll kind of suggests that your DM is using it as a bottleneck to knock the players down a peg. And what I mean by that is that all the options you have present all seem to diminish your party in some way. Excluding the first option, which it seems was never really on the table, your real options were to volunteer a major stat debuff, risk combat or worse against the Sphinx or that weird NPC in the cage, which kinda gives me like some secret bad guy or secret monster vibes, or use the deck, which ironically had the same effect as the Sphinx's brain draining for you, only even worse. It seems like there was no option given to you where the whole party wasn't effectively guaranteed to be depowered in some way. And from what I know, a DM may do that because the party is getting too OP for what they have planned, or because they're struggling to keep up with the game. But if this DM is the same DM that puts a pretty tough perception check on even having your starting gear at the beginning of the campaign, it sounds like they may be trying to play against you and the other players, which is a little bit of a red flag. Now, don't get me wrong, we all need a surprise now and then. Take that episode of Bob's Burgers, for example, where a newbie game master has the whole session begin with all the players being turned into goblins. It was a surprise, but they ended up enjoying the challenge, and it breathed new life into what was becoming a stagnant game for all of them. That's something that, in theory, the deck of many things is supposed to help a DM achieve. But like every card in any deck, it has to be used right. But that's just my thoughts on this story. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you again real soon for our next lesson in Fable Academy.